I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be ending unhappy relationships. Well, I got a quote I'd like to share with you before we get into this guy's email. And it says, ending a bad relationship or marriage should be done with love, care, and concern for the other person as well as yourself. Most people tend to stay in unhappy and unfulfilling relationships long after they realize that they need to end them. This is due to fear of the future, fear they won't find someone better, or fear that the next person will be worse. It's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Wouldn't you much rather spend your senior years looking back upon your life with gratitude instead of regret that you never tried to reach your full potential? Something to think about. So I've got an email here from a viewer, and let's just go ahead and jump right into it. He's obviously in an unhappy marriage. He's wanting to know what he should do if he decides he wants to get out of it. So he says, "Hi Corey, I'm married and I'm 38 years old. I've been watching your YouTube videos for a month or so now, and I haven't read your book yet because," and he says, "well, one thing I want to say is you definitely need to read my book. If, you know, for any of you guys that are watching, like you can't even afford it $10, you can read it for free on my website if you're worried about that." He says, and plus if you want to get the Amazon Kindle version, which I highly recommend because they've got an e-reader app that basically when you download the free app, you can read any Kindle book that you end up buying on any electronic device that you happen to have the app installed in. And what's cool is it always has whatever page you left. Say you were reading a book on your cell phone and you're on page 100, well then when you go to log in on your computer, guess what? It's on page 100. It's pretty cool. So he says, "It's coming though, and I think because I found your advice compelling and it has helped me to understand the roles of masculine and feminine energies in relationships and attraction. It's helped me feel much more comfortable in my marriage, although there is still one big problem, which is that I want to date other women." Yeah, I can see that's a problem when you're married and you want to date other women. The only reason that you'd be feeling that way is obviously your needs are not being met in your marriage. Because if you were fulfilled and happy in your marriage, you wouldn't be thinking about dating other women because you just wouldn't have the desire because your woman is fulfilling you. He says, "I married my wife," and listen to the next sentence. He says, "I married my wife because I got her pregnant 10 years ago. Well, a lot of people do that. He says, "She's not a bad person, but she has very little feminine quality and attractiveness. I work my ass off, and I want to feel happy about coming home." Well, you deserve that. Everybody deserves that. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have a great life that you really love, and it's exciting and fulfilling, and that you're content with, even if you are single. And you also deserve to have a woman in your life who has a great life, who loves what she does for a living, who she has full of friends and family and activities of the kinds of things that she wants. In other words, she has a complete life as well. He says, "As it is, usually when I see my wife, I feel a strong feeling of hatred in my gut. It's subconscious, but there's also just something about her personality and energy that can be so abrasive." Well, you've probably heard me say numerous times that when people get together, they tend to focus on what they like about the other person, but before they break up, they're pretty much focusing on what they don't like. And obviously in this case, you're focusing on things you don't like about your wife. He says also, "It could be a feeling of the pent-up disappointment I feel about my life situation." I'd say that's a pretty good summation, but don't make it your wife's fault because you have chosen not to go after the things that you really want in life. All too often, we as human beings, we always want to point the finger, say, "Oh, it's the politician's fault," or "It's the president's fault," "It's my next-door neighbor's," "It's that girl that made fun of me in 3rd grade." It's always somebody else's fault, but never our own. We never want to take, "Oh, I got to lose 50 pounds. Well, it's the stuff that's in the food that I'm eating." It's always somebody. We always look for it to be somebody else's fault. He says, without getting, because it's like we don't. It's the same thing with our politicians. We know they're all fucking us. We know that they're all lying to us. It doesn't matter what side of the fucking aisle on. These people are pathological liars. They get elected in a two-party system that is corrupt, and the only way you get to the top is if you're the most crafty fucking liar. And yet we trust these people with all of our stuff, and yet they're pathological liars. But we ignore that because we just want somebody, because we're all fucking busy in our own lives. We want somebody else to handle that shit. He says, without getting into too long of a story, I was an extremely shy and reserved guy going all of my young life. No confidence at all, he puts in big letters. He says, I had very few dates, and I had sex with only 3 girls before getting married. That was pretty much what was going on in my life before I got married. I only had dated and hooked up with a few girls before I met my wife. And it was the best I had ever had at that point. And I got to a point in the relationship, though, where I realized that I should have ended it, but I was young and I was dumb and I didn't know any better. And I certainly didn't have anybody in my family I could go to and ask for advice about this topic. So I talked to a lot of women that I was friends with, and they were all like, oh, don't be an idiot, you gotta marry her. And even though my gut was telling me that I shouldn't do this, I basically rationalized and talked myself into it. Then after I got married, a year or so later, I ended up leaving. It's just a bad way to go, because I was young and I was weak, and I was too afraid to stand up for what I wanted, because I thought maybe I'm not going to find anybody better, or that the next girl will be worse or not as cool as my wife. It's amazing the prison that fear makes for ourselves, or that I should say that we allow fear to make for ourselves. He says, my relationships were extremely unhealthy. I always chose strong girls and women who basically abused me mentally and emotionally and tried to control everything. Women want you to be more of a man than they are. He says, I was 100% passive and submissive. He says, secretly, I am extremely resistant to being controlled, but outwardly, I have given the appearance to females that I accept everything they say. My wife is no different, although since encountering your material, I have assumed the male role much more, and she honestly doesn't give me hardly any shit anymore, nor do I accept it if she does. Well, good for you. He said, because when you stand up for yourself, that shows that you have self-respect and self-love. And if you have self-respect and self-love, then your wife will respect it, because you're not going to sit there and tolerate her being abusive any longer. A lot of guys really struggle with that. And women in general. I mean, people in general really struggle with that. He says, we have 2 kids, 10 and 4, and now basically I am unfulfilled and unhappy, facing a life in which I will forever regret my mistakes. Well, the past does not equal the future. And at the end of the day, you can't do anything about the past anyways, because as far as I know, you or anybody else on this earth doesn't have a time machine. And you can't do anything about the future because it ain't here yet. The only moment you have is right now. And your life is like an Etch-a-Sketch that's constantly getting refreshed moment by moment. Right now, you have the choice to create who you're going to be in the future. And therefore, if you're not happy with who you are, you simply have to decide that the person you were a moment ago is no longer who you're going to be from this moment going forward. I mean, it's a conscious choice. You literally can choose something different in an instant. But the average person tends to let the paralysis of analysis kind of keep their feet like in quicksand, or almost like they have concrete shoes, and so they really don't go anywhere in life. He says, I live in Taiwan, and the women here that I see every day are just amazing. And I would love to have a shot with many of them if only I were single. My wife is blowing up like a balloon, and she really looks like a pig. I am thin, fit, pretty handsome, and a solid guy with a great career, though I have to admit that I owe the career to my wife. She more or less pushed me down my career path a few years ago. I think that's awesome that she did that, and good women will do those things. But the flip side, your wife doesn't love herself enough to take care of her body and look attractive, and some people are like that. She's just letting herself go. I've had a buddy of mine, same exact thing. When he went to high school, he knocked his high school girlfriend up. They got married when they were like 17, 18 years old. And I remember another friend of ours was getting married, and this is probably, I don't know, 12, 13 years after they've been married. They got 2 kids, obviously, at this point. Both kids are fat. And his wife used to be really hot when they were in high school, and she's just enormous. And both of them are just picking at each other and sniping at each other. And the kids are just stuffing themselves full of food, and they're unhappy. I mean, they look in their face, they look depressed. I mean, all 4 of them look just completely fucking miserable. But hey, they're staying in it for the kids, even though they're basically ruining their own lives and the lives of their children, because their children, they don't have a chance. They don't have any kind of an example to emulate. Now their kids are growing up with weight problems. It's just sad. And it's just because he's the type of guy, he's just too scared to do anything about it. He says, I've always been obsessed with the art of attracting women, so I started watching pickup videos and such on YouTube. I've had some success picking up women, getting phone numbers and such, and even cheating on my wife a tiny bit, but I'm always upfront about being married, so I'm only able to spend time with low-quality women who are really desperate for male contact and or who have no integrity. Well, it's like, dude, you're the one that's creating that kind of a space, so you're the guy that's cheating on your wife, and so I mean, what do you expect, dude? You attract how you act. Where intention goes, energy flows. You get what you focus on in life, my friend. He says, my question is, do you think I should get out of my marriage and start over? Well, my question to you is, what do you want to do? I mean, you're already, it's kind of like emotionally and mentally, you've already left the relationship because you're already fucking around on your wife. You're not attracted to her and you're not happy. And not only that, you didn't really want to marry her in the beginning. You just got married because, hey, well, we're having a kid, so we obviously should get married together. And the best thing that you can do for your child is to do the work that you need to do on yourself and get into a relationship with a kind of woman you really adore and who really adores you and who loves herself enough to take care of her body no matter what you do, regardless, just because she loves herself and she wants to take care of herself. I mean, we all deserve to have somebody like that. He says, my second question is, how do I present this to my wife in such a way that I don't make her hate me and be terrible to deal with in terms of moving forward with our children, who are the most important people in my life? Be completely fucking absolutely honest. And I'll get to it in a second here. He says, do you know any guys who have been through this? Well, I've personally been through it, and I've had several friends who have gone through it. I got a buddy of mine who's been with his wife for about 40 years, and he did the same thing with his first wife. He married her, and he was getting ready to bail on the marriage after only a couple weeks of being married. And right before he was about to tell her, she says, hey, great news, I'm pregnant. So 2 kids later and 12 years later, he finally says, I can't do this anymore. And he left. And that was pretty much what he said to his wife. He says, I can't do this anymore. I'm not happy, and I'm going to have to leave. He says, the only real problem in our marriage, apart from my wife being fat, stinky, and rude, is I am not in love and I want more from life. But how could I possibly say that to her? This is what I would say to her. Honey, I love you. I appreciate the fact we have a great family together, but at the end of the day, I'm not happy. I want a divorce. I mean, as simple as that. You're a great woman. You're a great woman to our children, but the bottom line is I'm not happy, and you can't tell me that you're happy either. And just say, hey, I want us to separate and I want a divorce. I mean, you just got to come right out and tell it, not fucking beat around the bush. Because if you beat around the bush, or you give her false hope, or blow sunshine up of her ass, you're just going to hurt her worse in the end. And that's what you're trying to avoid, is getting her pissed off to the fact where she creates problems with you, especially with your kids. And there's lots of women that do that. So you have to do it with love. You have to think about her as well. And if she's in the house and you got kids, you might want to think about leaving and getting your own apartment or a place of your own. Because especially if you want to start dating and moving on with your life, you don't want to be staying at the house and having the kids seeing that and everything. Because it'll be a lot easier transition for you to get your own place, set your bachelor pad up the way you want it, and obviously let your wife live somewhere else, especially if you guys got a house together, because you're the one that's ending the marriage, it's ending the relationship. And so, like I said, do it with love, speak from your heart, and you got to be honest with her. I wouldn't tell her that you're a fucking fat nasty pig, but you just say, I don't feel any. I mean, we're just like, I love you. We're like friends. We're like roommates. We're not crazy lovers that are nuts about each other. And I want to be with somebody who's crazy about me, and who I feel the same way about. And obviously for a long time, our marriage hasn't been that way. And for the two of us to continue on the way we're continuing on, we'd be bullshitting ourselves. And all we're going to do is ruin our kids' lives because we're in an unhappy marriage and too weak to do anything about it. So I'm manning up and I'm doing something about it. And I mean, like I said, I don't know what you feel, but you got to tell her that way, that you, in no uncertain terms, if that's what you decide you want, is that you want a divorce. So if you'd like to get my help further with it, go to my website, click the products tab, and book a paid phone session. I'll talk to you soon.